what OZT stands for.
Some group that rose from the ashes of my old Sentinel program. While you X-Men have been holding hands with mankind, they've been placing dominoes.
In this week's episode of X-Men 97, the X-Men discover an international conspiracy to take down mutants, while also learning just how few allies they have, even among other superheroes. Following the events on Genosha, the X-Men attend Gambit's funeral, along with members of the Thieves Guild, such as Gambit's brother Bobby, Belladonna of the Assassins Guild, who at one point was Gambit's fiancée, and even Aurora of Alpha Flight. Rogue is absent, however, as she is currently on a rampage across North America to try to find Bolivar Trask, the creator of the Master Mold. The X-Men are left to pick up the pieces after the tragedy at Genosha, after the UN refuses to provide more aid, and even President Kelly distances himself from the X-Men in order to favor his voter base, in a time when fears of a human-mutant war are higher than ever. Despite the loss of many mutants, to include Madeline Pryor, Scott asks the X-Men to put on a brave face and prove to the world that they haven't given up. While searching for more wounded among the wreckage, the X-Men find Emma Frost, who was thought to be dead, but survived as a result of activating her secondary mutation, which is her diamond hard skin. Now, Sebastian Shaw, with his ability to absorb kinetic energy, I thought should have been able to withstand the rubble, though he doesn't seem to be among the survivors. While the X-Men are aiding the effort in Genosha, Rogue is flying across North America trying to find the whereabouts of Bolivar Trask. The first place that she heads to is the Hulkbuster base in the American Southwest, and there she threatens Thunderbolt Ross in order to get information on Bolivar Trask, taking out a number of Hulkbusters in the process. She next meets Captain America, of all people, in a cabin in an unknown region, this cabin being the location of a secret lab previously used by Bolivar Trask, in which they find the acronym OZT, which stands for Operation Zero Tolerance, which I'll talk about more in a little bit. Now, for those of you who don't know, X-Men the Animated Series and Spider-Man the Animated Series shared the same continuity. So while Captain America appeared in X-Men during a flashback episode with Wolverine, he also appeared in a few episodes of Spider-Man. Now, in those episodes, Captain America was trapped in a time vortex with the Red Skull. He was briefly released during Secret Wars, but at the end of Secret Wars, the Beyonder put everyone back to their proper place, and I assume that that meant for Captain America to be put back into the time vortex. So I'm not sure how he escaped that to become part of the world once again. Regardless, this was a great cameo. Even though Captain America refuses to go to Mexico City with Rogue in order to interrogate Henry Gyrick for the location of Bolivar Trask. Apparently, Gyrick is being held by some Special Forces units affiliated with the UN, people that Captain America isn't even privy to, and he refuses to help Rogue on the grounds that he hasn't been given official authorization to go to Mexico City. Which to Rogue seems like a betrayal to mutant kind, but given the current environment and what's viewed by many as the beginnings of a war between humans and mutants, it's actually a smart call. Especially given the fact that when Rogue goes to interrogate Gyrick and absorbs his memories, she's unable to get anything out of him because his mind is currently being shielded by an outside entity. While the X-Men are on Genosha, they're contacted by Bolivar Trask, who wants them to meet him at a UN building in Madripoor. And so they pick up Rogue from Mexico City and head to Madripoor, where they find out from Trask that Mr. Sinister is actually the one behind the Master Mold attack, and that he basically used Bolivar Trask. When Rogue finds out that he doesn't have any more useful information to give them, she drops him to his death, except he actually isn't dead because he's been turned into a Prime Sentinel. And as a Prime Sentinel, he's able to take out nearly all the X-Men until Cable arrives and takes out Trask with an EMP grenade. Now, if you remember from episode 5, Cable arrived to Madeline Pryor at the gala to try and prevent the attack by Master Mold, except he was too late. So he's here once again to try and prevent a future apocalypse, which again involves Operation Zero Tolerance. Though when Cable arrives, Jean Grey reads his mind, and she finds out that he is Nathan Summers. So just how Madeline Pryor figured out that Cable was Nathan, so too does Scott and Jean. However, Cable doesn't give them time for a reunion, as they have to prepare to take down the ultimate enemy, who turns out to be a man named Bastion. As Bastion is actually the one behind Sinister, behind the Master Mold and the Prime Sentinels. Now, Bastion was that third figure in the photo of Forge from the episode Life Death that I'm ashamed to say I didn't recognize at first. And he's been the mastermind behind everything that's happened since episode 1. And in fact, Magneto wasn't killed during the attack on Genosha. He survived and is currently being held captive by Bastion using one of the anti-mutant collars. And so here's where I explain how all this is related to the comics. So in Marvel Comics, you had Master Mold created by Bolivar Trask, which was kind of like a super Sentinel that created other Sentinels. And then you also had Nimrod. Nimrod was a super advanced Sentinel from the future. He arrived from the Days of Future Past timeline into the present time. And when he was destroyed, his remains were absorbed by Master Mold, and the X-Men basically pushed him through a portal known as the Siege Perilous. And I'm not going to get into what that's all about, but basically Master Mold comes out on the other side of this portal, fused together with Nimrod, and becomes a human-machine hybrid. Now, as this hybrid, he has no memories of his previous life. He's basically like a man with the mind of an infant, though he quickly gains his faculties and, gains a personality. He's taken in by a stranger, though it's not too long afterwards where he starts to see news about mutants on the TV, and his old programming kicks back in, and that's when he starts gaining resources and putting together a coalition of allies such as the Friends of Humanity, who appeared in X-Men the Animated Series, led by Graydon Creed. And eventually he takes it all the way to the government level and starts an international coalition designed to deal with the mutant problem, which is known as Operation Zero Tolerance. And Operation Zero Tolerance actually piggybacks off of Project Wide Awake, which was a project designed to take care of the mutants previously, though it was shut down by the US government. And the Prime Sentinels are basically human beings with nanotechnology, and they kind of act as sleeper agents in the sense that they don't know that they are Prime Sentinels. Bastion plans to activate the technology at some point, and basically all these people around the US, if not the globe, will all activate at the same time and work to take down the mutant population. As we saw, Bolivar Trask wasn't allowed to simply die as his programming activated then. Although I'm betting that Bolivar Trask is simply a prototype and not the ultimate form, as he was very simply taken out by an EMP grenade. But the endgame of Bastion is to wipe out the mutant population, as many have tried to before. Certain storylines in X-Men the Animated Series reflected Project Wide Awake, and now we're seeing a version of Operation Zero Tolerance, which I believe could play out through Season 2. Although the fact that the showrunner left because of creative differences might hint at the idea that they're going a different route with Season 2, and that they might just end Operation Zero Tolerance in Episode 10. So we'll see what happens, but this is pretty interesting. I enjoyed the cameos, and the revelation that there is a grander narrative here, and not just a jumble of episodic stories is nice. And I'm hoping that they're able to resolve it in a satisfying way at the end of the season, even if they do continue on into Season 2. But let me know what you guys thought about Episode 7 in the comment section below. As always, if you enjoyed this video, I would appreciate it if you would hit that like and subscribe button, as well as the notification bell so that you never miss out on a new video. Thanks for watching.